Hi, my name is Brendan. I run new selection for the U.S. grocery team. Today I want to talk about the AVS Auto Vendor Setup SOP. And I'm going to go through a handful of emails today, and I'll show you what I do for each of them, and hopefully that will help. So I'm going to start with this one. As you see in the top, good practice is to try to identify who it is. In this case, always looking in the title is a good place to start. And I saw that there was a vendor code. You'll start to recognize these patterns, as I do very quickly now. But I'll searching for that vendor code in the vendor setup tab. If there wasn't a vendor code, I would look in the brand tracker tab. But since there was, I'm looking in the vendor setup tab, and I'm going to try to find the vendor's status. That's what I always do first. Try to figure out where are they in the process. Okay, so it says new item setup instructions sent. So they've activated their account, but they don't have any items created. Got it. Okay, so I'm going to go back and try to answer their question. Okay, I just opened a cost file, however, came back with some errors on certain items. I'm not sure how the items it pegged, but in reviewing the items, I see I had filled one section correctly. Okay, so it looks like he has a question about item setup and submitting the template. I see the first one has to do with the item MSRP. He's having a question about that column. And the second one, it looks like, has something to do with the selecting existing brand name field. Okay, so I think I know where to find the answers to these questions. And the first thing I'm going to do is reply. I'm going to copy his questions. This is always a good practice, into the reply so I can very quickly answer them, give them some space for my answers. So now I've identified his questions. I'm going to go into the RBS Vendor Onboarding SOP, and I'm going to try to find the answers. First thing to do, I would look in the frequently asked questions, but since I know it's actually not going to be there because this has to do with item setup, I'm actually going to go look at the item setup document. So when vendors have questions about new item setup, we do provide this document to them, which I encourage you to review if you have yet to. And this document gives you pretty much all of the answers to most questions. Despite that, vendors will continue to ask questions, like this vendor just did. But you will find frequently that the answer is actually in the document. And if we click here, it's very clear that it is. One of the answers for the existing brand name is there. So what I'm going to do, actually, I provide those links in the document, but I'm going to look for a local copy, which I'll also provide you, so you can look at the text version in a Word document. It'll allow you to easily copy and paste answers. So it's just in the new selection folder. All these documents will be available to you. And I'm going to find the answer, and then I'm going to copy and paste the answer into the email. So he had a question about the difference between existing brand names and new brand names. So I'm just going to copy and paste that relevant section into the email under his question. There we go. Now I'm going to go down to a second question, or up to a second question actually. I started with the second one. Go to Unit MSRP, column T. He had a question about that. I'm just going to copy and paste our clear explanation there. There we go. And then I'm going to send it. Done. On to the next one. Okay, so this vendor has a question, and I'm going to try to identify what's the vendor's brand name or vendor code. And I'm looking in the top, I see, there we go, that looks like a vendor code. But it looks like there's multiple things there, so I just want to check and verify. Okay, so it looks like that. That's the vendor code I'm looking for. I'm going to search for her company in column T, Control F, Control C, Enter. You find it very quickly, RJ Gourmet, and same thing. This vendor has their account activated, but they haven't created any items. So now I know that. I'm going to see what her question is. So she has a question about items. She doesn't know what vendor name and code she should use. This is a good question. I would first go look into the RBS SOP and try to find it. I'm just going to save you some time and say, there's answer to this question's not in there. I don't actually know it myself. It's a little confusing. So what I'm going to do is mark it green. I'm going to flag that. You saw that green rectangle. And this means someone on our team is going to go review that and answer the question for you. And we'll update the SOP. So now that you've marked it green, I'm going to move on. Here's another email. And she's asking, I'm not able to upload the second file because it says I already have. Looks like she's having trouble with item setup again. And I see that, and she says, item has already been submitted once, you can't submit the same file. Okay, so she's having problems correcting errors. So I'm going to go back into that new item setup. Actually, excuse me, I exited out of Outlook. Apologies. But I'm going to go back into that new item setup document in a second after I find her email. Okay, so now I have it. I'm going to go into the new item setup document, and I'm going to try to find information about item submission. What does that mean? And here we go, correcting errors in the new item setup template. This should cover it. So I'm going to copy and paste this entire block here into the email. I'm going to reply. I'm going to paste that in there, and then I'm going to click send. It's just taking a little bit longer than expected because it's a bigger email. But I'm just checking to make sure that this will answer a question. It looks like it will. So sending it. Done. Now we're going to move on. Okay, and here's one. I'm going to unflag this. This is actually not one of the ones I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to keep going. There's one. Lounge attire. I am actually not going to talk about this one either. This is a little bit confusing. Here's one. Okay, here's a vendor. I see they got an automated email. I see the brand name is Fresca Italia. So I'm going to search for that in the brand tracker. I'm going to click column B. Always click the column right there. So you highlight the whole column, Control F, and then Control C. I just found it. And it says contacted. So we've reached out to them, and we're expecting a price sheet. Anytime it says contacted, we're looking for a price sheet, which it looks like the vendor just submitted. So, since he did what we wanted, I'm going to change it from contacted to responded. That's all you have to do. It's that simple. But in addition, every time we get an email from a new brand, we want to check the contact information and make sure it lines up. In this case, Andy is correct, and the email, Andy, is also correct. So we have good contact information. We don't need to update it. So we're done. I'm going to keep going to another one I want to talk about. Here, Heartland Gourmet, another automated email. They want to know how many SKUs we're referring to. They have a lot in their catalog. Okay, so this seems like a question. I think I know the answer to this question. I'm going to search for it in the AVS SOP. I think it's been provided here, and it is. Look at that. Do you really want my entire catalog? What SKUs are you interested in? I'm going to copy and paste that into the email. It's just taking a second. Excuse me. There we go. And then I'm going to click send. Done. Very simple. Now that we've done that, I also want to just remember, I didn't do this, but you should do this. You should always look for the brand name, see what their status is, terms sent. So terms sent means that they sent us their prices, so we're good. And we don't need to check their contact information because we know we got it. We already did that when they first responded with their prices. So now I'm going to keep moving on to the next one. Jer's Chocolates. Interesting. Okay. Looks like he got an automated email, and it's a brand. So I'm going to search for the brand in the brand tracker. There it is. Status, terms sent. So it looks like they sent their prices. So I also just want to check here. I saw something. I want to make sure this contact information is correct. Now this says Louis. He says he's going to be our contact. So I want to make sure we have that in our system. I don't think we do. So what I'm going to do is actually pull this over. I'm going to pull whatever's in the primary. Always pull it over to secondary. Never delete it. And then I'm going to take the new, most recent contact information from Louis, and I'm going to paste that into the primary email. I'm going to get rid of that. Those extra spaces is very important. I'm going to go back, and since we have Jerry, I'm going to change it to Louis. All right. Now we just have to answer his question. What time do you like to set on Wednesday? So he's asking about the conference calls. He wants to know what time is the conference call. He clearly didn't read the email below, but we can help him out. We're going to reply to his email, and we're going to get the information on the conference call, which is in the bottom of the email we sent. It's in the documents. It's very clear. Wednesdays at 2 p.m. That's for new vendors who have questions about terms, if their status is terms sent. If they're in the vendor tracker tab, then it's Fridays at 2 p.m. And all this information is in the SOP. Okay, here's another vendor. Now this one, Taylor Brothers Farms, looks like they have a vendor code. That's a classic automated email. So we're going to look in the vendor setup tracker for this brand. Type in that vendor code, and we found them. Good. Close. See their status. New item setup instructions sent. So they activated their account, but they don't have any items. So they need help setting up items. Okay, what's his question? He wants to know, how do I get to the grocery items setup? So he wants to know, how does he start the process? Well, let's go into that document for him and get him the relevant parts, finding the new item setup template. That's the first step. I'm going to copy that, go back to the email, I'm going to paste it in. And then I'm going to click send. Done. That's my friend 2. Okay, I think I have 2 more for you. Here's another one. Code of Farms, new brand, classic. It's an automated email. I'm going to search for that brand, and it looks like they sent their price list. So this is a very, very common scenario that you should be very familiar with. Go to the brand tracker, click the top of the column B, Control F, then Control C. I found them. But I also want to check for duplicates. Anytime you get a new brand, it's also a good idea to check for duplicates. I'm going to remove some, maybe remove some letters if necessary, and I didn't find any. And he sent his prices, so I'm going to change it to responded. I'm also going to check his contact information, Ross and Ross. It looks like we're good. So that vendor sent his prices. We changed it from contacted to responded. Now we're going to go to another vendor, new vendor, but this time they didn't respond immediately in the right way to our automated email. It looks like they sent another email. So this makes it a little confusing, but I did find the email we sent, and there's the brand name, Pacific Plaza Imports. I'm going to search for it. I'm going to look, change it to responded. I'm going to check and make sure Mark and Mark, that's what we saw in the email. So we saw Mark, so we don't need to change anything there. And he sent his price list, so we changed it to responded, as you saw back here, from contacted to responded. And then we're done. I'm going to send one last email. There's a very common situation. They got an automated email, and the vendor wants to speak on the phone. So I'm going to search for that brand name in the brand tracker. I just want to see where they are. Okay, it looks like we sent them their terms, so they sent us their prices. We have the right contact information. And he wants to give us a call. Now, we don't give calls like that, so we have to answer him politely with a pre-written blurb that's actually in the document. It's a very common situation, so I've made it large. Vendor wants to speak on the phone. And he said, I'd like to set up a call. That's our clue.